Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB bringing you InBetweenIsode number 86. So today I am talking about a tea that I do own, the Menghai Dayi 0622, and this is one of the teas that I've acquired through Taobao. So that is from the vendor mx-t.taobao.com. So I've been buying tea from them as a vendor for a year and a half, here and there. Every 5 or 6 months I'll place an order for some teas, and just about every time it's something that is factory tea and something that is usually semi-aged, usually right around this 10-year mark. So this tea is from 2006, so it's about 10 years old. It's from one of the original productions of the 0622. I own a mini cake, which I've been slowly drinking through over the past year, and the fact that I have almost finished it said something about how much I do drink this tea, which is an unusually high amount for a factory tea. Yeah, and just real quickly before I get into tea, I also want to give a shout out to my friend Toby, who is doing a group order to MXT. I've talked with him a bunch and corresponded with him a lot about different teas that are interesting, and he's putting together a curated list of samples that about fit that criteria of 10 or 11-year-old factory tea from Menghai, Shaguan, and a couple other places. So we will be getting and drinking this 0622. I have rinsed it once. I have already drank one steep, and sitting right here is the second steep and the third steep. So you can kind of see it's brewing up a very firmly semi-aged character. MXT's storage is in Guangdong. It's decently humid, but it's not anything I would classify as over the line. This tea is pretty compressed, so it retains a lot of its youthful characteristics as well. So let's get drinking. Cheers, guys. So it's definitely still got a strong strain of bitterness to it. 0622 is a smaller leaf recipe. It's supposedly based off of the 7532 and one of the old Fangcha productions from Menghai Tea Factory. And this tea hits very fast. So one of the things that's happened and is kind of inevitable when a tea like this, when you're breaking it up, is you're going to get a lot of crumbs. And so I have my wrappers filled on the bottom with a lot of crumbs, and I brew a small amount of them in each different brew, usually at the bottom of the pot, so it doesn't get too much in the liquid or whatever. But this tea is quite strong in the second infusion. It's got sort of a medium viscosity. It's got a really interesting mouthfeel that I think has sort of drawn me to this tea. It's strong, it's pungent, it's sort of silky. It's not as smooth as I would hope it would be in the future. So this could definitely be a tea that you would store away, I suppose. Some florals. I think this probably used to have considerably more smoke. You can still detect a little bit of that. Still very strong, very pungent. It does get the back of my mouth, so it's a little bit more depth than you would expect from your average factory production, and I've found this to be generally above average. Not a lot of sweetness when you're actually drinking the liquid, but that slowly transforms. And if I were to eventually drink water after the session were over, the water would taste sweeter than it normally would be. And so since that infusion was so strong, I'm going to go ahead and brew up the fourth infusion right here. And I'm going to give that close to a flash steep as well. The aroma is actually quite nice. A lot of sort of sweet apricots, a little bit of floral in there as well. Definitely a tea that can very easily be overbrewed, so brew with care. Usually with this tea, you're going to need to keep the infusions on the short end, depending on how many crumbs or if you're brewing chunks or something like that. So it can very depend, and so it depends a lot on the skill of the brewer to make sure that they don't overdo it and keep the tea fairly palatable throughout. Cheers, guys. It's softened up more, so I'm enjoying this infusion a little bit more. More of that fruit is coming into the actual flavors of the tea. A little bit of mushrooms. It continues to have a nice sort of texture in the mouth, and then sort of get the back of the mouth. It's not a ton of feeling in the throat when you're drinking the liquid. A little bit of returning flagon. Definitely some woody characteristics starting to emerge from this tea, so you would expect those to come out a little bit more in the future. And I'm going to let that cool. Yeah, for just a second. Yeah, and so I think, I don't know if I've come across this way, but I do recommend this tea. I don't think it's for everyone, and I think people that generally prefer more smooth, easygoing stuff, this tea is not quite there. It's still very pungent, very strong, but I don't know, I feel like this tea, I would be very curious to try this tea in 10 years, and I have a few more cakes beyond the one that I've been drinking that I have stashed away, so we will see what Seattle does to it. It's also a tea that I think, if I were to taste the Kunming stored version of this tea, I do not believe that I would enjoy it nearly as much. I think it's the sort of tea that this more humid storage from Guangdong or Guangzhou or wherever has really helped to move this tea along in the right direction. So me buying the version of this tea that has been stored in these somewhat humid conditions is certainly not an unintentional maneuver. All right, cheers, guys. Steep number 4. It's like a little bit of sharpness, then it really smooths out. You get sort of that texture, and then sort of that bitterness sits in your mouth, and then it sort of slowly transforms. Yeah, I think that just about sums up this tea. This steep is very similar to the third and the fourth the third infusion, I would say, second and third, retaining sort of that bitterness as it goes. And I find this tea steeped out for 10 or 11 times, which is a little bit more than what you would expect from like the very baseline factory productions, or right about at that point. Definitely go check out MX-Tea if you are okay with diving into Taobao. They do sell samples of this tea. But I'd also, again, like to shout out my friend Toby. I definitely recommend him as far as being a curator and being able to get you some interesting stuff to drink. I forget what the order is exactly, but I think it might be 10 different samples that he especially likes, usually around this age period. And I think it's a great way to sort of get acclimated to a lot of different raw pu'erhs and things like that that are from factories and are well stored. And I don't think all of them come from MX-Tea. I'm not really sure, but definitely check that out if that sounds like something you would be interested in. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys actually in a day.